freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 444 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearmsauctions.com, where you set the price on guns, ammo, and accessories. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. The theme today is The Dust Never Settles, and our guest is Stacey Goodman. Stacey is the author of The Dust Never Settles, which is her true first-hand account of serving as an emergency responder at Ground Zero in New York on 9/11.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service and your continued service to share these stories with us, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So we met because of the work I do with Women for Gun Rights, and I found out that you are here in my state of Arizona. So coming all the way from New York to Arizona, that is quite the cultural and temperature transition.
Yes, it is.
Well, welcome to our very sunny and hot state. So this book I know is I would have to say it's a labor of love. It was a while coming before you wrote it, but just kind of take us back and tell us your story. What put you in that place on that day?
Well, I was a Suffolk County police officer, which is on Long Island, a suburb of New York City. I was a patrol cop for about 6 years when 9/11 happened. But prior to that, I worked on the TWA Flight 800 disaster.
Wow.
You remember that? That was in 1997, at which time I had the opportunity to work with the Suffolk County medical examiner and his staff. And from that, I ended up making a lot of friends from the medical field, and I was asked by them to join their volunteer agency at the time, which was under Health and Human Services, the federal government, which is D.M.O.R.T, Disaster Mortuary Operational Response Team, which is mostly comprised of medical professionals that go all around the country and all around the world, assisting in both man-made and natural disasters. So I joined up, and my first activation was on 9/11. Since I was not a medical professional, although I did have some EMT training, I was there as a logistics specialist to assist in whatever the medical examiner needed. I was sworn in as a temporary federal agent at Ground Zero. And when working for the medical examiner, we worked on the pile, which the pile is what we affectionately call the 1.8 million tons of debris that was the towers and the other buildings that fell that day. And we worked right on that. I worked 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. And what I ended up having to do, the medical examiner looked at me and said, well, this is a federal crime scene. You're a sworn federal agent, temporary federal agent. You're also a police officer. You have to do the preliminary IDs before I can make any further investigations. So that's what I did. 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for 23 days.
Wow.
And I, my book.
Wow. That is not easy work. But every family member, every family that knows where their family member was has to be in your debt and has to be grateful.
Well, it was the medical professionals that did everything. I basically just did a preliminary ID, which means first we had to, of course, we treated all the remains with absolute respect. And, after I would do my preliminary ID, medical examiner would do his preliminary investigation. Then everything went to the New York City medical examiner's office, where if you recall that day, the media was telling family members that were missing family members to bring in any kind of DNA, hairbrush, toothbrush, anything that they can use to compare DNA. And of course, DNA has advanced so much in the last 20 years that actually on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, 2 more sets of remains were positively identified.
Oh, wow. That just gave me goosebumps. They've 20 years they've waited to know for certain.
Oh.
And how interesting. Every time I think about the DNA, kind of the journey of our understanding of DNA, my mind immediately goes back to the uh who's the guy that just passed away, the white Bronco?
OJ.
O.J. Simpson trial. That was my first experience of even understanding that there was such a thing as DNA and all of that. And now to think, what a integral part it played in, the 9/11 story. And even then it hadn't progressed to the way that we understand it and can use it today. So,
Absolutely. DNA was used extensively, not only at 9/11, but as you said, in other facets of law enforcement, identification. It's a great, great tool.
that's incredible. So what caused you to write The Dust Never Settles? Because it took you a while to write it, to complete it, or just to, okay, now's the time to start it.
Well, I actually wanted to have it out by the 10th anniversary. And to even go back before that, my friends were all telling me, wow, you've led such an interesting life. You should write a book. You should write a book. So, like I said, I wanted to have it out by the 10th anniversary, but I would write things down and then I would have to put it away because it got, it got
Sure,
very emotional.
sure.
Um,
Oh,
you
can't
know,
imagine.
it's about the history of Ground Zero. It's about what I did down there, but it's also about my police career and my life that all led up to that. Yeah, that's my Suffolk County picture.
And
From
your
when I
signature. I have a signed copy. Not
Yes.
bragging.
So it obviously didn't come out on the 10th anniversary. It came out on the 20th anniversary. And I was only able to do that with the assistance of an editor that I had to hire who brushed everything up, cleaned everything up. And really, without him, I never would have been able to release the book. I hand wrote pages. And he kind of looked at me and I said, I don't like computers. It's easy to handwrite. So that's what I did. And of course, he was integral in helping with doing some of the research because we do trail all the known terrorists that flew the planes into the building, and he took care of a lot of that, which was a great addition to the book. It's really a good history lesson of what actually happened on 9/11.
Mm. Yeah, I've never attempted to write a book. It's one of my bucket list items. And I think I feel like you do, that it's like what stories do you tell? What pieces of what stories do you tell? What's too personal? How do you get it all put together? So to have that extra set of eyes, to have a good editor, I think is the only way.
Yeah, and I mean, the first chapter is a little bit personal and it is a little bit in your face, kind of, for lack of better term. But that's kind of my personality. So you know, when the day it went live, as they say, when it was released, I just sat in my house and I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do? Put my whole life out there. Say, what are people going to think? But I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from people all over. So it's been very cathartic to go around and speak about the book and speak about my experiences down there. And I really hope the another aspect of getting the book out there was to let young girls who wanted to get into a male dominated field say, hey, you could do this too. It might be a little hard, but you can do it. So
That's awesome. Well, as you mentioned, your first chapter is titled Into Hell. You kind of preface it. You let us know this is not going to be, sunshine and daisies and roses going into this with your very first chapter. And I do think that I haven't had a chance to start reading it yet, but I'm very excited to. But I like how, it starts with Into Hell, and then near the end, chapter 12 is Brothers in Arms. And how important is that to have that camaraderie and the shared experience and people that you can reach out to that had, a similar experience being on the pile with you?
yeah, it's that's really important. I've met a couple of retired NYPD officers, New York City Police Department officers out here in Arizona, and that worked at Ground Zero. And some of the guys can talk about it. Some of the guys don't want to talk about it. So it's just nice to just be around them, let them know I'm there for support, and they support me. And it's a really nice feeling to have that camaraderie. And the police department is based on that, brothers in arms, which includes brothers and sisters on the department. Blue uniform, it doesn't matter where it is, we look together.
Absolutely. Well, I really do have an appreciation for that. I have not served in that way, and so I can't say that I know and I understand, but I absolutely have an appreciation for that. That, not only do you have the shared experience of being law enforcement officers, whether it's in Arizona or New York or somewhere in between, but then to, have these experiences that are, a similar thing that, somebody that just became a law enforcement officer today, you do share a similarity, but to people who were actually there at that time going through that, I think that's got to be definitely a heightened level of that brotherhood, sisterhood.
I don't know how you could have done it. I mean, it's got to be, no one wishes that. It's got to be impossible.
Absolutely. So, what would you think in your book is maybe one of the more surprising things that people might read? Not, maybe something that they might not have expected out of such a heavy or hard story.
Well, people tell me when they read the book, they laugh, they cry, because I am a clown of sorts, comedian. I try to keep it light, but there's certain things that can't be that way. But there is a chapter in the book where I talk about my police career, and I've had people ask me to write a second book just on my police stories.
Fun.
But this chapter is pretty interesting. It's how I single-handedly caught a terrorist, basically, on Long Island, and got in trouble for it. So yeah, that's a fun chapter.
You got in trouble for it?
Yes, my supervisor didn't like the fact that I was out of sector at the time that I caught this terrorist. And the Metropolitan Transportation Authority controls the Long Island Railroad, which is the largest commuter train in North America, bringing people from all over Long Island into Manhattan to work. And it was about 2003, 2004 when the trains were attacked in Spain to affect the elections there. And the FDA was afraid something like that was going to happen here. So every patrol car had a affidavit in their car, and in New York State, that would allow us to make an arrest on MTA property because their officers couldn't be everywhere. So the chief of the MTA said, you probably saved thousands of lives. And my boss yelled at me for being out of sector. So there you have it.
I'm sure he got over it, right?
Actually, no, I don't think he did.
Really?
No. I said,
Crazy.
I handed him a piece of paper with everything drawn out so he can write up my award letter. And you owe me an apology, boss. And still never got it. Still waiting for it. Don't really care.
Don't really care. Well, now everybody knows. But that is so crazy. And even that is one of those things that, that's not going to happen in every kind of job. So to have that experience and, if you had it, then you're not alone in that. Somebody else must have had it as well. But I guess by the book is by the book. I don't know. That's so crazy to me. Did you get your hero's recommendation? What was the paperwork?
No, I never did. I did get a call from an inspector who said, "Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate what you did, even after you got told no, on a transfer that I really wanted." So I went out there and did my job anyway. And I just happened to be in the right place, the right time. And I knew what to look for. And, all that matters.
Oh my gosh.
So
Absolutely. So I held this up and I showed a couple of other pictures. There's one with a guy I think we all kind of recognize, Geraldo Rivera. So what was the occasion of that?
Well, Geraldo Rivera used to love the Suffolk County Police, and he used to party crash at all our parties. So
That's great.
that one picture, and my editor was like, "That's got to be in the book." So it's in the book.
Fantastic. And then Joe Arpaio here in Arizona. Obviously, everybody knows who Joe Arpaio, Sheriff Joe, is.
Sheriff Joe, I spent a half an hour on the phone with him, talking to him. He wrote a really, really nice blurb for my book. My hero as a sheriff, great, great guy, as well as Mark Lamb, who's
Yes.
Senate, another great sheriff here in Arizona.
Absolutely. And as you probably know, Sheriff Lamb is trying to become Senator Lamb, which, if he takes all of his skills that he's been using as a sheriff and takes them to the federal level, that could really be good for our state and our nation. So I love that.
Yeah, I'd like to see him do something federally with the sheriffs, put his
Oh,
real use,
yeah.
that
I
would be
love
great.
that idea. I love
Yeah.
that idea. Okay, so as we've been saying, you do now live here in Arizona, and we did meet through the Women for Gun Rights. So one of our mottos might be the one behind me on the blue sign there that says, "I am my own first responder." So having been a professional first responder, and I think that was during 9/11 might have even been when that phrase became part of my lexicon. So interesting to take it back to there. What should citizens know, in your opinion, about that level of responsibility, personal responsibility?
First of all, I think everybody should read and understand the Constitution of the United States. Know that's the law of the land, that's the prime law that was given to our founders through God. And that is the law of the land, despite what these politicians are doing now, weaponizing our federal government, warping the minds of children. The law of the land is the Constitution. And I truly believe that every parent should instill that in their children. Otherwise, we're 2 generations away from becoming slaves. And especially read in the Second Amendment where it says shall not be infringed. And we've been infringing on that for quite some time. Frankly, the only reason we're free now is because there are millions and millions and millions of guns out there being held by good citizens, which you don't hear from them. You only hear about the bad things. A gun is just a tool. It's just a tool like a hammer or a screwdriver. And it's the person that holds it and wields it and knows how to use it. Guns are not bad, people are bad. And you can outlaw them, but hey, I think we outlawed drugs, and well, how's that going for us, right? So, making more gun laws doesn't work. Doesn't work. I believe everybody has the right to own a gun.
Absolutely.
I own a few. I know how to use them. There are lots of safety courses, especially here in Arizona. There are so many places to go to learn how to use a gun safely, how to holster it. So many different choices on types of holsters for women, for men, belly bands, all kinds of holsters. And like I said, all kinds of courses. If you've never shot, I suggest people go to an instructor, learn how to shoot a handgun. Everybody should have one, and lots of ammo with it.
So Stacey,
Love it. Thank you.
So what a difficult job you had being in law enforcement, having the mindset that the Constitution is the law, with New York having so many unconstitutional laws for gun owners. How could you function as a law enforcement officer with that?
Well, most of the guns that we took away were from felons. I never took a gun from anybody who was a law-abiding citizen, who had it holstered, secured, and, I wouldn't violate anybody's constitutional right. Not that I didn't get in trouble for doing that,
Right.
but I refused, because you swear an oath to follow the Constitution. If a supervisor gives you an order that does not follow the Constitution, it is your duty as a police officer not to follow that order. However, a little murky when we're talking about driving. People are under the assumption that driving is in the Constitution. I can assure you it is not.
No.
It is a privilege, not a right. And there's a difference. I always like to say, comply and you will not die. It's quite simple. It really is.
So did the laws have any effect on why you decided to move to Arizona?
Well, I like hot weather. I never liked the cold New York weather. After 9/11, I had health issues from ground zero, affected my lungs. So the cold weather was not very good for me. And I was always kind of like a closet cowgirl. So Arizona was the obvious choice. I had
Love it.
vacationed out here, and I've always wanted to live in the town that I'm living in now, which I mentioned in the book, which is Cave Creek. It's a nice little out of the cowboy town.
I love Cave Creek.
Great place, but we like to keep our town nice. So it's a great little secret. But we do love our winter visitors. Come spend your money and then go back home.
Yeah. Don't leave your politics here, right?
We are losing.
Take them back with you.
We are losing a lot of our strong, the gun laws and things are tightening up here in Arizona too. As you saw with our last election, we've got a governor that's not pro-gun.
Right.
And,
well, stolen elections have consequences.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They sure do.
I worked with Kerry Lake doing security. I know the evidence is out there, but the judges are being bought off. The justice system is failing us. We're being backed up to a wall. What I suggest everybody do is everybody get involved. You have to get involved. You can't just complain about it. I became a precinct committeeman. I got elected. I'm a national delegate. I'm going to be going to Milwaukee to represent Arizona. And you can bet your pennies I'll be supporting our candidate.
I love it.
Yeah. So I tell everybody, but you don't have time to be a precinct committeeman. Go to school board meetings. What's going on in your town? It starts there. You got to have mayors that are going to fight for you, fight for the Constitution. That's where people get involved. few hours a week. You know, our
I love
founders
it.
did everything for this country. We owe it to them and the people that gave their lives for this country. It's the greatest country in the world.
Absolutely.
This is
Thank you for
why,
that.
this is the kind of people that we like coming to Arizona.
Yes.
People that get involved. You know, we're always afraid, you know, people from California are coming over to change. You know, they don't like it in California, but then they come here and they don't change.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, and so it's
They do
good to,
more of the
it's good to
same.
hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You
Yes.
are definitely a force to be reckoned with and an amazing example of, you know, what we should be doing. And if everybody would do something, we can't do everything, but if everybody would do something, we would definitely, we would not be the silent majority anymore. So I applaud that. And I just want to touch back very briefly on something you said about, you know, in our nation, we have so many firearms out there. Here in Arizona, we have so many gun owners and so many opportunities for training. Well, one of the hats that I wear is of the vice president of the AZCDL, which is the reason that Arizona is a constitutional carry state, meaning we don't have to have somebody's permission slip to keep and bear our firearms, right?
Well, we have that permission slip, and that's called the Constitution.
Thank you. Exactly.
No, there's
Don't
no
need a
politician.
magistrate.
How many politicians even know what the Constitution is?
Well, that's part of the problem.
You know,
But here's what I want to say is that in our state where we have no requirement for training, which I don't believe there ever should be any requirement for training because I think they can, you know, the wrong side can use that and make it too expensive, too inconvenient, whatever, you know, set the bar to where you have to be an Olympian level or something like that. But where we don't have these needs for, you know, some other human to give us a permission slip, we have so many training courses that are full all the time. So when you remove, you know, people, when you stop telling people what they have to do, they will do what they know they should do. And we have so many responsibly armed citizens.
Yes, and that's why we have less crime in certain areas where you have a high amount of good citizens who have weapons, because an armed society is a polite society.
It's so true. It's not just a euphemism. It's not just a saying. Well, just as we start wrapping up, what else do you want people to know about your book? It's past the launch date, right? I think I bought mine when it was still in
Yeah,
the pre-sales.
my wonderful editor has created a wonderful website where you can purchase my book. It's a real easy website to remember. It's Stacey, Stacey, Goodman book.com. And that will allow you could purchase the book directly from me. So I will sign a copy and send it out to you. It's a secure website and it's through PayPal, but you don't have to have a PayPal account. You can go on as a guest and use your credit card and put where you want the book to be sent and how many copies you would like. And I will sign each and every copy that I ship out. We all know about Amazon, but Amazon, this is how Bezos probably got rich. He does not pay very well to the authors. So pennies on the dollar, and you know, there are expenses with these things. I'm not looking to make money, just to get the word out there. And I'm actually trying to get the book made into a documentary. But yeah, if you want a copy of the book, I would suggest going to my website, staceygoodmanbook.com, and get a copy directly through me so I can personally sign it for you and ship it out to you.
I love it. And you know what? When I first bought it, I did the Amazon thing, and then I went to your website and I saw that, oh, if I buy it from Stacey, I get a signed copy. So I went back to Amazon, canceled my order, and then I got the signed copy. One last question. Unpack the title for us. Is that what does that mean? The dust never
Well,
settles.
I actually had the title before I finished the book. because at ground zero, all you saw, it was like snowing, and it was the dust from the asbestos and from the buildings. And I originally had it because I spent 7 years after my retirement fighting for my medical benefits that were due me. And New York State was going to make it as difficult as possible. And one of our lovely congressmen out here, Congressman Andy Biggs, his wife was reading my book, and he asked the very same question. And I told him the very same answer. And he kind of got a little red in the face and said, "That's not right." He goes, "Can't make any promises, but I'm going to make a couple of phone calls for you." And as a good representative, he made those phone calls. And lo and behold, I was awarded my benefits, thanks to Congressman Andy Biggs.
Love that. I love him. He's awesome.
He is.
He
He's
knows
a
the
fighter.
Constitution too.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Part of
Knows
the
it.
Freedom Caucus, which why do we have to have a caucus for freedom? That tells you something about the state of our nation right there.
Yep. 100%.
Thank you so much, Stacey Goodman, author of The Dust Never Settles. We so appreciate you. Thank you for your continued service. I'm excited to hear what happens through this next election with all of your work. We will definitely have to have you back on.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Stacey.
Bye-bye. Isn't that wild?
yeah.
Somebody from New York that we might think, oh my God,
Law
please
enforcement
don't,
not going to be one we
like,
want.
yeah, there's a lot of law enforcement out there that really are not into the idea of citizens carrying, especially in a place like New York. One of the things with Women for Gun Rights, we go into different states, congressional offices. So even though I'm Arizona, if one of my teammates is New York, then we go into the New York office. My New York lady delegate comes into our the Arizona offices. So we were in a New York office, and it wasn't the elected official, it was their staff member, which happens a lot, and that's still a very important conversation to have. And that person was, asking me, where was I from? And, I was saying, oh, I'm from Arizona and whatever. And he goes, oh yeah, you guys have everybody walking around with guns all over the place. And I just kind of demurred and smiled. And he said, yeah, it's not palatable. It's not palatable to our law enforcement in the state of New York for citizens to walk around with firearms. And I tell that story as often as I can because I have read this book, our roadmap, right?
Did you say not palatable in there anywhere?
Our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. The word palatable, shockingly enough, does not appear anywhere.
No buts either.
No. And so I just had lots of thoughts that I wanted to say, but I'm not even his constituent. So I wanted to be polite. And I said, well, I understand there are very stark cultural differences between different states, but I would encourage you to look at Arizona as a real-time, real-life experiment in freedom, and look at at the time, our crime rates were drastically going down. New York's were drastically going up. And, as Stacey Goodman said, our guest today, an armed society is a polite society. So, we think when somebody comes from another state and, maybe they're one of these law enforcement officers, it's not palatable for citizens to exercise their rights. We can't lump them all together because clearly Stacey is just freedom oriented through and through.
Right.
And so we welcome all of those kinds of people to our beautiful state of Arizona, right?
Anybody that can follow the Constitution is welcome here.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again to our amazing guest, Stacey Goodman. Please check out her book, The Dust Never Settles. Thank you to all of our awesome viewers and listeners all over the planet. Wherever there is internet, we have viewers and listeners, and your time is your most finite commodity. When you spend it with us, we notice it, it is valued, and we thank you. Real quickly, if you want to listen to any of these episodes or watch this episode again, if you like the video version, go to YouTube or Gunstreamer or the Opslin smartphone app, and be sure that you click the notification and subscription buttons, because that tells those platforms you want more of this kind of content. It helps protect us, gives us a hedge against cancel culture. If you want to listen to the audio only version, go to our website, gunfreedomradio.com, click the on demand tab, and
You will binge listen to your hot content, darling.
oh, wow. It was like Arnold Schwarzenegger in there a little bit.
Smokey the Bear.
Oh, Smokey the Bear. Or,
More
Arnold,
he's more cuddly.
Smokey. It's all very cuddly. Ah, that's hilarious. And if you want to get links to any of the works of our guests that we've ever had on, including the link to Stacey Goodman's book, go to the guest tab. There is an ever-growing body of work there, subject matter experts, and all of their links. And when you spend time there, we don't hate that. All right. We want to tell you about a couple of quick things here. So, training is so important. We've talked about that on this show, probably every episode of this show. And we have some very good friends who have created a product that will help you with your training. It's called Locked In Grip. It is a liquid shooting sports chalk that has a no slip, better traction, heightened connection for faster, safer shooting. It is lockedingrip.com, made for shooters by shooters. Go there and get yourself a couple of, one for yourself and maybe one for your favorite shooting buddy. Also, since America is the best place on the planet, we need to support it more in every single way, including with our dollars. So if we are constantly sending our dollars to China or Mexico or other nations that are producing so many products, then what does that mean to people who want to produce here? It means we don't value them, that we don't value their products. Well, we have an opportunity. Today, I'm going to invite you. This is your personal information, your personal invitation to join the private invitation-only shopping club that is helping our family and millions of families cut that cord on those huge corporations that send our dollars off to foreign lands and that also use our money against us to diminish our freedoms and individual liberties. You can accept this invitation today and buy American-made products, support American jobs on American soil, from laundry soap to skincare to delicious snacks and even amazing steaks and ground beef and those kinds of products from Riverbend Ranch, which is one of their product lines. And you can make your order as you go, or what I like to do, I set my order, I forget it. Guess what? It shows up at my front door. I love it. It's so convenient. It's great quality products. All you have to do is go to patriothousehold.com/GFR for Gun Freedom Radio. We get a tiny piece of every dollar you spend to help fuel the work we do. The Second Amendment Foundation that's fighting lawsuits all across the nation to protect our Second Amendment, they get a tiny piece of every dollar you spend. So you are just win-win-win with this. You're helping Americans on American soil. You're helping Gun Freedom Radio. You're helping the Second Amendment Foundation. You are being a patriot by shopping at patriothousehold.com/GFR. All right, until next time, what are we going to do, Dan?
I think we're going to pray
We are.
that the politicians understand our Constitution and protect it.
Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that,
What a difference.
wouldn't that solve everything?
I mean, you take an oath. Why not live out your oath? Right? Every single elected official takes an oath to protect and preserve every word of this little document, which, by the way, if you've never read it, this one is all of what, 46 pages long?
Yeah, and you take this
Takes
is
about
this
an hour
is
to
the-
read.
This is kind of like the law book,
Yeah.
right? And you look at the law books that attorneys have, and it's filled a shelf behind us 20
Multiple-
times.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is simple. This is
It's
simple.
so simple. Please read it yourself, understand it yourself, and hold your elected officials to it. And so we are going to pray for our nation. We're going to pray for our leaders, even the ones we don't like, even the ones that are not
I don't like the
following our
word leaders. They're
Constitution.
not our leaders, Cheryl.
No?
They're not our leaders.
Well, what are
Because the leaders tell you where to go and how to get there and when to get there. They're not our they're advisors.
okay? They're supposed to be our representatives.
Representatives, yes, and they represent what we think and what we do,
Right. But
not control
also,
us.
but also not even the elected officials, right? We are leaders in certain areas of our lives, right? Our grandchildren see us, as leaders. So I want to pray for all people who are in positions of responsibility that they use that responsibility to its utmost, not for their own personal gain, but for the benefit of the organization they're in, the family they're in, the nation they're in. That's kind of what
So
I'm
you
doing.
ask me to pray for our leaders.
Okay.
You ask me every episode, you ask me to pray for our leaders.
Mhm.
And then I look at some of them and I go, the only thing I can pray for that I know of is that pray they get out of being a leader. Because they're not doing us any good. There is a no recovery chance for
Hey,
some of our politicians.
I didn't tell you how you had to pray for them
Oh,
or what
Betsy,
you were supposed to pray for them.
let's pray for our leaders.
So yeah, and so that's why I say even the ones you don't like, and then I say maybe especially the ones you don't like.
Well, I want to make it clear, I don't wish bad for anyone,
Exactly.
but I wish and pray that the ones that are doing bad quit doing bad
Mhm.
and leave our country alone. Bring it back to what it was and leave it alone. That's all I ask.
I'll high five you on that.
Okay.
All right.
It's easy.
If you try.
You think it's easier to follow the Constitution than it is to not follow the Constitution? Think of all the things that they come up and create. How many rights have we lost? California, New York, Washington,
true.
Seattle, all this. We have lost so many
So
of our
true.
rights.
I don't disagree.
And we give them up to think that it's going to be better.
It's true. And even the understanding of our Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is a firewall. It says these are the things the government can't do, right? It's not that the government can allow us to have an AR-15 or not.
I want
It's
you to
saying,
tell the
no, you
government they
can't
can't do something.
have any say in
Tell
it.
the government they can't do
The
something.
Bill of Rights.
I
That's
know
exactly
that.
what
And what are
it's
they
for.
doing with it? They're
What are
stomping
we
it.
allowing them to do with it?
Well, I'm not allowing them to do anything.
Right. We are doing our part. We are doing what we can do. Stacey Goodman is doing what she can do. We're trying to encourage everyone to find the one little thing that they can incorporate into their life and expand freedom, reclaim our constitutional rights. So that's your homework for the week, everyone out there. All right. And the other thing is people that are listening all across the globe, right? There are people out there praying, wishing they could have
I mean, wouldn't you love to have a
what we have,
conversation?
and we are throwing it away.
Wouldn't you like to have a conversation with Nancy Pelosi and just say, Nancy, tell me what you think the Constitution is? Do you think she could answer that? I know she could answer it, but would she? Because if she did answer it, then she would realize that she has been violating the Constitution from day one. Do some.
I'm going to have to pray on whether or not I would want to
I-
have an actual conversation.
I understand.
Because I don't think she'd be open to a conversation. I think that's why.
Yeah.
That's why
I'm
I
on a
say
rant. I better quiet down, but I just get really frustrated when people that take an oath to follow something, a judge or constitution, you follow the Constitution and see them blatantly not doing that. It's so disappointing to me. And when you work at a job and you do something wrong on purpose, you get fired immediately. It's not like, hey, in 4 years, we're firing you, dude, you're out. No. And so why can't politicians be treated the same way? You have violated our Constitution. You don't work for us anymore. Put a
Wouldn't that be
substitute
nice?
in there.
Wouldn't that be nice? But
I don't
there's enough people that don't care, enough citizens that don't care, and that is the problem. None of these elected officials could get away with what they get away with if more of us cared about what their limitations really were.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can talk about that next show. How about that? All right. Until
Don't
next time,
Yeah.
be good to each other. Forget. You do not forget. Until next time, be good to each other. Have a great week and God bless.
Bye-bye.